not despise small beginnings. I've seen God use the small to make just great. And so that's exactly where you two are going.
It starts as a seed, it grows into a bush, the bush turns into a tree, and the tree attracts everything it needs, and it covers territory. You see the tree that's inside the seed. I give him permission to put this seed in the ground in LA, in California, in the United States, in North America, and in the world.
Hello everyone, welcome to our House 633 monthly Wednesday live. We are a kingdom transformational house with the aim and purpose of helping people develop, maximize, and release their gifts, purpose, and personal assignment on earth. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in. For those of you who do not know who I am, hi, my name is Evelyn, and it is such an honor to be here with you guys today. And we are just so excited to speak on a very unique topic called fatherhood. But before we start, I would like to introduce our guest. We have our pastor, Halton, and we have my husband, David. And I want to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. Go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah, I am her husband, my wife, Evelyn.
I am your father.
Yeah. That's part of the role. And yeah, we got one daughter, so we are experiencing the physical form of fatherhood, and there's so much more that goes into it, and we're excited to talk about it.
Hey man, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday live. Like I said, we come on live every month, and basically we talk about topics that are going to be a blessing for you, for your family, that are going to help you grow, develop, maximize your gifts, your potential. It's part of the vision of the house, so everything that we do here is geared and tailored to make sure that we help you advance in those areas. So I look forward to the conversation. Fatherhood is always an interesting topic.
Yes.
We do live in a fatherless generation, so when we talk about fatherhood, it is a very popular subject. A lot of people have a lot of questions and a lot of input, so let's get to it.
Yeah, so let's get started. So I think this topic on fatherhood is such a great topic because for so long, so many of us have had our own meanings or perspectives on what a father is. And being a part of House 633, I think personally I can say that I've learned that a father is not just someone who simply is a role in the creation of a baby, but rather someone who can be identified as a source, nurturer, and a supporter for a child or a wife. So that also leads with the first question that I have. What is the true meaning of fatherhood? Or so, how did God create fatherhood to be from the beginning?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Is that for me?
You want to go first, or you?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I had a different first question, so
So
I was geared up for another one. But yeah, that's a good question.
So fatherhood is more than just being a progenitor. For example, in the natural world or in the physical realm, a father is considered somebody that's a progenitor, somebody that provides the seed, so to get a woman pregnant, and from there they have a child, and that makes a person a father, according to the world standards. But according to the Bible, according to biblical standards, the spiritual realm, a father is more than just a progenitor. A father is somebody that is like it's more of a function more than a title. So I do have some things written down here that describe fatherhood, and fatherhood begins with being a source. So a source is something or someone that causes or produces something or is the origin of it. A source is also someone or something from which you obtain information. So being a father or having the function of a father means that you also are the source of everything that comes out of you. So anything that you source, you have to be able to be also that fountain of information, of knowledge, of revelation, so that you can be able to sustain it. So in essence, like for you guys are young parents. With Bella, you're her source. Her source of information should be you guys, for example. Her source of information should not be Netflix, should not be Disney, should not be any source of social media. Her source of information should be coming from you guys, because fatherhood, like I said, it's a function that allows the child to develop and to be able to allow them to grow and mature with the right information. So the right information should come from the father.
Okay, so I guess when you say the children get the source from us, correct? We teach them, we guide them, and that. So in that aspect, we as fathers, I would say, they get their source from God, our Father, correct?
Well,
So that's how the line goes from, because technically, let's just say, for example, if David wasn't a Christian or didn't go to church or anything like that, but he doesn't know any knowledge of anything, so what is he teaching her, right?
well,
So,
there's always information that is being transferred to the child regardless.
okay.
But is it the right information? And that's why we need to be able to understand that there's a deeper connection with the Creator when it comes to fatherhood,
Yeah.
because the Creator is also the Father of creation. He created the universe. He created the stars, the planets. He created the earth where we live, the realms. He created everything. Everything was sourced out of Him, and creation seeks out to the Creator when it needs any source of information or even to seek its own function. So even the seeds don't function by themselves. The stars don't function by themselves. They seek out their Father. They seek out their source, which in this case is God.
Yeah.
And us as the male men here in the physical realm, we get our functions from our Father as well. We have to look at our Father, which is God, and be able to see how He functions, how He nourishes, how He sources things, so that we can in turn be able to come here and be able to do the same thing for our children, because our children depend on us being that source of information for them.
That's good. Do you have any input on that?
Yeah. So, can you just repeat the question again?
Yeah. So the question is, what is the true meaning of fatherhood? Or so, how did God create fatherhood to be from the beginning?
So yeah, I wanted to touch on like the second part of the question of how God intended fatherhood to be, which is that He basically gave us that. He gave us how He wanted that to be within how He created man. So He, as one of the main verses that we talk about in this house is that He made man in His own image, in His own likeness. So that's first and foremost, I believe, what as a father, you're gonna basically whatever's gonna come out of you is gonna have your own image, your likeness, and so that's how He intended it to be. Of course, it can be negative in a way where, if you, like you said, if you don't know the kingdom, you don't know good, so all that can come out of you is what so you technically can't birth a kingdom citizen or a child if you don't know the kingdom yourself.
Yeah.
So I mean, He basically intended it to be for that Adam to then multiply himself, which would have just been more of God.
Okay. And so I wanted to say something that I think our pastor has mentioned in our past preachings. And he states that we have to be the authors of the lives of our children. We write in their minds and in their hearts. We give them permission to success, or we can tear them down. And I wanted to know, see if you can expand more into depth when you mentioned that.
Well, it all goes back to God, the Creator, because when He created us, like David was saying, He created us in His image and His likeness, so that we can have His function, basically to have His nature and His character, so that we can have permission to succeed. When God gave Adam his likeness, and when God gave Adam his dominion here on the earth, what He was giving Adam was permission for him to be successful. He was giving him permission to function in his own capacity, in his own authority, so that he can go out there and perform the assignment that he was given here on the earth, knowing that he had the backing of his father, and that his father had confidence in him, and that his father was proud of him, and that his father knew that he had all the abilities in him to be able to do what he was told to do. So in essence, when we have children, we have to be able to embed in them the same thing that God embedded in us. You have my likeness. You can succeed. You have your abilities. You have You have all the potential trapped inside of you. Get it out of you. You can fulfill any assignment that the Creator has given to you. So don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Go out there and perform, because you were built and created from the very beginning to be successful. But it is our job as a source to be able to give the child that information. Every time a child comes and you tell the child, for example, hey, go ahead and do this, and then the child comes and says, no, I can't do this, or oh, I'm afraid, or oh, I don't know. This is where the words of the father come, or the mother come and give affirmation and says, yes, you can do this. Yes, you have the ability to do that. Don't be afraid. And you start removing all these negative thoughts that they have in the head, and then you keep on affirming the positive thoughts in them by letting them know that you believe in them, that you trust them, that you know that they have the ability. Because when a child hears from their father, you can do it, even if they're afraid, they're going to be able to jump and get it done. When they hear that they're smart, even when they feel inadequate, they're going to go out there and get things done, because their source is telling them that they can do it. So it is very important for us to be able to put in the mind of the child from the very beginning the right information. And that's why I'm saying that as a father, as a source, it is our responsibility to be able to give them the correct information. That's why I was watching Bella, for example, and she's into this whole Disney thing right now. And as a child, they go through this processes, but in her mind, she believes that Elsa is a princess and that she's not a princess. As a source, as a father, my responsibility is now saying, guess what? Elsa is not the only princess. Bella is a princess. You are the princess. She is fake. You are real. And it just the way that you feel, good about yourself when you can imitate this other personality, you now have to feel good about yourself being you, because you're for real. You're in this physical realm. You are the real princess. So it is the source that has to give that information to them, so that they don't get their identities confused, so that they don't think she's a princess but I'm not. I have to be like her to be able to be royalty, but in reality this character doesn't exist. It's fictional. It is our responsibility to tell you, you're the real thing. You're the real princess. You carry all this value. You're more important than Elsa. You're more valuable than Elsa. You have more royal blood in you than Elsa. Whose responsibility is it? It's the source. It's the father. We have to be able to look at all of these things that in the life of the child, and we have to start pulling out all this false information and giving her the right information, so that she can grow up with good self-esteem, good identity, and she'll be basically have a she will be able to be proud of who she is.
Yeah. And so what would you say for the girls or the boys that don't grow up with any fathers? Would they be able to get that same confirmation or source from their mothers, or they cannot?
No, they don't. And this is where it gets a little bit sensitive.
Yeah.
Because it is by design by God that not only men but men get their identity from the father.
Yeah.
In the physical realm or the natural realm, everybody says, yeah, that's true. It's the boy and a man, and he makes him a man. But when it comes to the girls, for example, they're like, hey, go to your mother. Your mother is the one that's going to help you out in this area. I can't do it. And it's ignorance, not us understanding our roles as a source. Because girls or young ladies also get their identity from their father. They don't get their identity from their mother. And if you look from the very beginning, going back to Bella always looks for the father. She can spend all day with you, but when the father's present, she wants to be with the father. And the biggest mistake we can make is send her back to you. We gotta let her connect to the father.
We're so used to be like, go with your mom, or because it's girl on girl, or it's woman to woman. So it's like you're so normalized of go with your mom, rather than it's you go to your father instead.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we'll get into this topic real quick, and then go back into fatherhood, even though it has a lot to play with it. Whose child does Bella belong to? Is she your child, or is she David's child?
David's.
Okay, let's talk about that. Why?
Because she was in him from the beginning, so he was the
Okay,
one
so
that
who is the
released
source?
It would be
Me.
David,
Okay, so why does she look for him?
because he's the source. He came out of him.
Right, but what is the problem? Let's think a little bit here. What is the problem? Who carried her?
I did.
How long?
9 months.
So that makes you believe what?
That I'm her source because she came out of me.
Right, but the seed will always look back for the true source, where it came out of.
Wow.
So it's not that she doesn't love you. She loves you because you incubated her, you protected her, you nurtured her, you gave her the ability to expand and to grow and to develop. But the desire of the child is always to go back to the source. That's why the boy or the girl always looks for the father, because they know where they came from.
Okay.
And when we say, hey, you have to come with me because I'm your mom, you not only cut the relationship with the father, but you also deny her the relationship with the creator. Because the ultimate goal is to be able to make sure that a child understands that they came out of God. And the only way that they're going to understand that they came out of God is if they establish a relationship with their earthly father first. And once they establish the relationship with their earthly father, then the earthly father can introduce them to their father. I have a father too, Bella. I know I'm your father, but I have a father. His name is God. His name is Jesus. And I want to introduce you to him, because God is not a God of sons. God is a God of fathers.
Yeah.
So the only way God can be introduced into the life of Bella is if the father introduces him. If a father doesn't introduce him to God, a mother can't.
Wow. What do you have to say about that?
It's crazy, right?
Yeah,
That
I mean,
is
it's
really crazy.
it's crazy, and
I think it's just crazy of the mindset that we have right now of like, we're the mother, so it's like, oh, like she belongs to me. And I think that's why even in the worldly worldly society, when a mother and a father separate, the children are like, oh, they always go with the mother, like it's the mother. But in reality, it's like, no, it's the father that that
It is a
the
father
source.
that should keep the children, and that's why
Yeah.
God is so upset with the world, is so upset with culture. Why? Because there is a fatherless generation. None
Yeah.
of these children belong to these women.
Yeah.
All these children belong to the man, because the man is the one that had the seed. Women don't carry seed. Women carry embryos, and they carry the egg that gets fertilized by the seed, and this is what gets basically transformed into a living being that we call a child. But without this seed from the man, the egg is worthless. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So women, carry this child for 9 months, and they take ownership instead of stewardship. And when they take ownership, they even take the children away from the father, which is the source, which in turn causes trauma to the child, because it's now disconnected from the father or the source of information. That's why they don't know who they are. That's why they don't understand their value. That's why they don't understand their abilities, because they have been disconnected from where they came from. And that's why God is so upset with all these irresponsible men that are not responsible with their families, with their children, and leave these children in limbo, growing up not knowing who they are and not being able to have a connection to God, because they have been so irresponsible in their dealings with women.
Yeah. And I think that was my other question was, children that are growing up without fathers are more likely to struggle with their identity and purpose. And what makes a father being present more significant? And I think that's something that maybe you guys can touch about, of like, what are things that fathers can do to help them feel like they know who they are, or getting closer to their purpose or anything like that.
Yeah, well, it's difficult because, like, if you as a father don't know your purpose or any of that, then it's hard to transfer that over to your kids, because from what we've learned, it's like you're basically your legacy and your family is extending what you've already done, you know. So it's like sometimes it's been necessary in a lot of our families or generations where, you know, one person has to be the one to break either a generational curse, like something we've talked about, or just like family habits and stuff like that. But somebody has to start it at some point, you know, and make that sacrifice. Like I was listening to a message earlier today, and he was talking about, you know, like some boxer or something, but basically that he built like a replica of the house that he grew up in, that was like real poor in the ghetto or whatnot, and now he's got this huge mansion. He made millions of dollars, but it's so that way he can always remind himself of where he came from, you know. But it's because he's the one who had to pay the price for his family to be able to have, you know, the things that he didn't have. So when it comes to like the purpose and stuff, like he found his purpose, you know, what it was, boxing or being an athlete. And so then he can then, you know, help his kids figure that out by the way that he found out, you know. And of course, as we know, when it comes to purpose, that is our purpose is aligned with the kingdom, you know. From the beginning, before we're made, God has a purpose for each and every one of us. And if we don't know that for ourselves, which is, you know, something that I've gone in the process of, then it makes it hard to realize that your kids are going to need that from you, you know. And so like for the ones that are not fathers yet, it's like it's important to know that, because you, when you do have kids one day, that's the person that they get that from is your parents, you know, your purpose and your identity and all that.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
really good.
So I mean, another thing that I want to add here, as far as the importance of a father, is that a father is also like a protector, a defender, a defender of the family, a defender of the wife, a defender of culture in itself. And without a father, there is nobody there to to stop a son when they're going into rebellion. There's nobody there to stop the son or to stand up to them and put them back in their place so that they can learn submission. It is the responsibility of the father to be able to come and tell the son or the daughter the way you're treating your mother is wrong. What you're doing in society is wrong. Without the father being present, telling the child that once they leave the door, they represent them as a family. And the way that they represent them as a family out in the world would speak values not only, you know, about God, but about the values that we hold as a family. It is a father that does all of that. Nowadays, you know, with so many children growing up without a father, only having a mother, the child gets to this point in their life where they become rebellious, and they don't respect sometimes. So they come and they stand up to the mother. What are you going to do? And then the mother doesn't know what to do, because a mother is not a defender. A mother is just an incubator. And a mother follows you know, the commands of the father within the household. But when this child turns 13, 14, or 15, and now is even bigger or stronger than the mother, the father needs to be present to be able to put the son back in its place, so that he knows how to respect women, how to respect the mother, how to respect the social norms. And that's what we don't have nowadays. We don't have nobody telling the children that what they're doing is wrong, and nobody standing up to them to put them in their place. That's why all these children grow up not respecting society, not respecting anybody, even though they know that it's wrong. They're like, there's nobody here to stop me. So that's also the role of the father. The father is there not only to be a source, a nurturer, but also to be a protector and a defender, and to be able to stand up to this child in a moment of rebellion and make sure that he submits back to social norms. And if the father's not present, how are these children going to learn that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, because it what you were just saying kind of goes to this verse that I was, you know, reading earlier when I was trying to, you know, make a couple notes for today. It was from Proverbs 13:24, and it says, "If you withhold correction and punishment from your children, you demonstrate a lack of true love. So prove your love and be prompt to punish them. So a father, yeah, I mean, it's crazy how, like, even with, we can see it with Bella, you know, like,
Yeah.
she, not that we, I mean, we both punish her, you know, but she's more quick to respond if I'm the one who's telling her something, you know. Currently, you know, that's just what she's doing. Like, as we've learned, you know, she just naturally gravitates towards towards me, you know. So
I think, and then sometimes also the way that we do discipline is also where it's like, oh, like, listen to your mom, or like, your mom this, or do this to your mom, or like, rather than it's like, no, like, the father, when she hears the father's voice of like, no, like, this is wrong, don't do it, and like, she's more prone to listen. Not that she wouldn't listen to her mom, to me, or to anybody else, but I think it's just that she knows that, like, that's my father, or that's my dad, like, you know, and I'm more prone to, you know, hear him out.
Yeah, just naturally, I guess, from when she was younger, like, you notice that, you know, like, she's more receptive to, if I have to say something, she'll listen. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, punishing her is hard, because she's little.
So do you think there's a difference between a father and a dad in society? Because I've heard this concept of like when there's like a broken family, but it's like, oh, well, my dad wasn't around, but I call my stepdad a father because he was a provider. He was there. He wasn't. Would you say there's a difference?
Well, yeah, and I think that children, like I said, those are the dangers, or the pros and the cons, I would say.
Yeah.
Because a child will always listen to the voice of their father. So if there is a father in the house but he's absent, meaning that all he does is work, but there is no correction, there is no guidance, there's no nourishment, then she'll know that that's the father, or the progenitor.
Yeah.
So there'll be some sort of respect, but then at the same time there's going to be some sort of rebellion because she doesn't recognize him as a father. So then you have all these other people that can step in and fill that void, whether it's friends, or whether it's music, or whether it's any type of outside influence or source that they'll start listening to, that even though, like, hey, that's my dad, but I'm going to listen and I'm going to do this. In the case of a stepfather, it's the same thing. Let's say the stepfather comes in, let's say he's a good one, and then he takes over the sourcing, the information, the education, the mentoring, the nourishing, the sustaining, all these things. Then they can be able to recognize him, like, hey, that's my dad, that's my source. And they start listening to that voice. But at the same time, you have many people that can come in as a stepfather role and then just say, you know what, I'm just here for your mother, I'm not here for you. And then you can also, that can create more resentment, more anger, and more rebellion. So it just depends on the type of man that steps in. A man that thinks that being a father is somebody that was the progenitor, meaning that gave the seed, or somebody that understands that being a father is a function. So what we need is more people to understand that fatherhood is a function, and that it's not necessarily something that has to do with being a progenitor or giving the seed. Being the seed giver is good, as long as you can also become the source, and the nourisher, and the sustainer, the supporter, the founder, the protector, all these things. But if you only become the seed giver but don't become none of these things, then you will be more of a detriment to the family than anything else.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and in today's
that's good.
It's crazy how, even in, like you're saying, in today's society, like when, especially on like social media or not, you know, they say like, oh, baby daddy, or like, it's this, you know, this verbiage, this term. Fathers are not really,
They're not baby daddy.
and they're not even mentioned. Like, you know, like the only time that you hear anything about a father is like, oh, on Father's Day or something, you know. But like, there's always this headlines or captions about, oh, baby daddies or this and that. And so there's all these dads out there, but they're not fathers. So like your dad was saying, or, you know, our pastor's saying, is like, there's a fatherless generation, you know. And it's crazy because there's not lack of kids, you know, there's not a lack of population. It's just and that's why, in a way, like, everything is in the state that it's in, you know. That just shows the importance of a father.
So let's do a quick test for all the people that are watching us online, because like I said, I think there is a lot of confusion between a progenitor, a male man that gives the seed, and what a father is. And like I said, most people think that being a father is just having a child, meaning that I got a girl pregnant and now they have a child, I'm now a father. But that does not make you a father, that just makes you a progenitor. And we have to be able to break these down into sections so people can understand. So a father is a source. So that's number one. If you are not sourcing that child, you are not the father, even if you're the progenitor, even if you give the seed. And like I was saying, a source is someone where that gives them information, education, that gives them knowledge, that gives them revelation, that has an answer to their question, that guides them in that area of information. Is source. And most fathers or most men or males, they're not sources. They don't educate their children. They give the education to the educational system, or they give it to the TV. The TV becomes the babysitter, and now children are more inclined to be on TV and tablets than they are to be able to have a conversation with their source, which in turn, in the long run, what it creates is it creates a barrier between God and them, because if they don't know how to talk to their father on earth, they're not going to know how to talk to their father in heaven. So it's very important for the child and their father to have a good communication, because connecting to the source will allow them to connect ultimately with God at the end. Another thing is a father is a nourisher, which means that it sustains with food or nutriment, supplies what is necessary for life, health, cherishes, fastens, keeps alive, strengthens, builds up, or promote. That's a nourisher. So if a father is not providing for the child so that they can be sustained and have everything that they need to survive, then he's not a father either. So you have all these people that are getting these girls pregnant, but are giving them no sustenance, meaning that they're not providing any financial means for the child to be able to grow, to have whatever it needs as it develops, food, clothes, private education, whatever it is. They're not nourishing the children. So they're causing the children to grow up in ignorance and with lack, and with this expectation that whatever I have here, that I should just conform to this instead of striving for the best. So being a nourisher is being able to provide for them whatever is necessary for their life. So if the male is not doing that, he's not a father. So then we talk about sustainer. What is a sustainer? Is to provide what is needed for something or something to exist. What you are responsible we are responsible as men to make sure that we can provide whatever is necessary for our children to exist. What does that mean? They have dreams, they have aspirations, and it is our responsibility to be able to sustain that.
So you're saying as fathers, we have to be able to do that for our children so they can achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve in their goals and be whoever they want to be,
right,
and dreams and everything.
Yes, okay. They want to be a soccer player. You have to sustain it.
Yeah.
They want to be able to be a trumpet player, a musician. You have to sustain it. They want to be a ballerina. You have to sustain it. It is the father's responsibility to sustain the child so that they can become whatever it is that's trapped inside of them. So when we don't become sustainers and we just tell them, well, I'm not going to spend money on that, I ain't going to do this for you, you're killing their dreams.
Yeah.
You're killing their aspirations. Yeah. You're killing their ability to develop. So that takes, by doing that, it removes you from the function of being a father, because a father has to sustain. God sustains the universe. It allows the universe to be the universe. It allows the stars to function as stars. It allows the sun to provide the heat. It allows the moon to be able to provide whatever it needs so that the earth and the ocean can be within its parameters. A father sustains whatever he sources or comes out of him so that they can function at the capacity that they were created to be. So God is father because he sustains everything, because he nourishes everything, because he's a sustainer, a supporter, a founder, a protector. That's what makes God a father. It's not that he gave the seed for the tree, or they gave the seed for the animal, is that he sustains them, and that without him they wouldn't be able to live. Without him they wouldn't be able to be what they are. So being a father, we need to understand that we have to be a sustainer, and part of being a sustainer is allowing the child to explore their desires, their ideas. Like one day they're going to want to play soccer, another day they're going to want to do something else. And what are you going to say? Well, you just can't do it. You're just going to kill their dreams?
Or
No,
I
you're a
already
sustainer.
put you in a sport. You can't do another
Yeah,
one. Or you already
and now
did
you
this.
want to do this other stuff? Yes, you're a sustainer. Because
Yeah.
until they find their calling and until they find what they're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to sustain it.
That's good.
And
And
just
it's costly too.
and, yeah,
Very
yeah.
costly.
Kids, yeah. What I wanted to mention is that it's crazy how a lot of the stuff that you're mentioning now and in your notes, it pretty much just lines up with the house mission, you know, about being with the aim and purpose of helping people discover, develop, maximize, and release their gifts, purpose, and personal assignment on earth. So a father is supposed to do all of those things. So if like me
good.
as a father, I'm supposed to do all of those things for Bella and whoever else is my son or daughter. And in a way, we've learned, you know, the kingdom is about fathers and sons, you know. So fatherhood is just I was just putting these things together, and it's just crazy how important fatherhood is. I mean, it's like one of the staples of the kingdom is fatherhood, and the proper principles being followed, and basically, like you were asking in the beginning, the way that God intended it to be is what leads to, you know, God's purpose being fulfilled.
That's good. That's good.
And this other word, supporter, it goes back to the kind of like the question you asked earlier. And a supporter is a person who actively helps someone, a person who gives encouragement and approval to someone or something. So a father, the way that a father supports is by giving approval.
So when they say like,
You can do this. So let's look at the story of John the Baptist and Jesus. Jesus is in 7-day walk into the Jordan, because that's what John the Baptist was baptizing, and then he comes to John, and then John baptizes him, and then what is the first thing that we hear? It says that there was a voice that was heard from heaven that said, "This is my son." Recognition. You are my daughter. You are my son. Affirmation. And I am well pleased with you. Affirmation, supporting, because the child needs to know my father recognizes me. My father can see me. My father supports me. My father is well pleased with me. But the child needs, of course, that there are prerequisites for those words, because the child has to be obedient as well. Jesus in obedience came to John the Baptist and did the will of the Father. And once he did the will of the Father gave him affirmation and gave him his support, promoted him.
So
this
that
is my
only
son.
comes through obedience.
Yes.
Okay.
So as a father, we need to teach our children obedience, so that they can hear the words of affirmation from us. Because it's impossible to affirm somebody that you're displeased with. So a lot of children are looking for affirmation from their parents, but they're in disobedience, so they can't get those words. And how many children say, "Man, I've been waiting 20 years to hear my mother say that I'm proud of you," because it took 20 years for you to be obedient.
That's so true.
But if we can teach them obedience from the very beginning, they can hear those words of affirmation much sooner, so that they can go into their purpose, because those words of affirmation are permission to succeed. When a child feels affirmed, he feels that he can go out there and do whatever the world throws at him, and there is no problem. So affirmation also contributes to the fulfillment of a need in the furtherance of the effort or purpose. So a child can't fulfill purpose when they're not affirmed. So we got to be able to teach them obedient, so that when they do something that pleases us, we can tell them, "That's my child, that's my son, I am well pleased in you." So it's not just about correcting, it's also about affirmation. sometimes we're good about correcting and telling them you did this wrong and you did that wrong and all these things, but when they do something right, we never affirm. We never tell them I'm proud of you. We never tell them, hey, you that's my daughter, that's my son, I'm well pleased with you, because that'll lift up the spirit and allow them to move closer to their purpose.
Yeah, that's good. You have anything to say about?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just there's so many stories that you read in the Bible that line up with that, that show what God's intention for a father was. Like earlier I was reading about the prodigal son, or the loving father. It was in two different books, but the son left. The story is a little bit longer, but he was basically rock bottom. He was eating pig slops or whatever, and all he wanted was to just go back home and just like, oh, I'll just be a servant, like I'll just be a worker. That's good enough for me. That's better than what I got right now. And the father embraced him as soon as he got there, threw him a party, and too many times, especially in my experiences with either other people's dads, because I didn't grow up with my dad, but like just the way that fathers would, or dads or fathers would correct their kids, it was like, so like, man, like it would be like cringy sometimes, and it's like when you have something like that, it builds resentment. It builds like, you get shamed in front of your friends and family. And so there's basically just so many ways that you can learn in the Bible of how to do things, because we see it too often of people fathers not doing things the right way, that just leads to the kids being exasperated, which is, even in the Bible it talks about don't exasperate your children.
Where was that verse in? I think it was like Proverbs. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't Proverbs. Is that the one that fathers honor or children honor your father and your mother so you can have good and long days on the earth?
Yeah.
He was in Ephesians somewhere.
Oh,
and then
Ephesians,
the next verse was fathers don't exasperate, or parents don't exasperate your children.
Yeah.
But raise them up with loving discipline and counsel that brings the revelation of our Lord.
You see, that's good stuff.
Okay. So I also saw that you have you mentioned the founders, that fathers have to also be founders of, that they're the beginning or original of something, and it's like a root word of authority. I think you have mentioned that before. Can you elaborate more on what it means with the root word of authority for as a father, or would that
and that goes back to also kind of like with the supporter, because when you support something, you give it that approval. A father is also a founder, which, like you're saying, the root word is the beginner or originator or something, the founder, which is the one that establishes. So as a father, we have the authority, the legal right to establish our children. Meaning that we can speak into their life and determine the course of their future simply by speaking into their life. So because we have the authority to do it, that's why a lot of parents, out of ignorance, they don't understand that when they're praying for their children, what they're actually doing is that they're setting a foundation. What they're doing is giving authority for God to intervene and be able to make sure that their steps are solid so that their future can become what God wanted it to become. We have the legal authority as fathers to be able to, like I said here, to establish that. To author it, because we have the authority to do it. And that's why it's very important for us as fathers to understand that we're founders, which that root word is also where an author authority comes from, because we can write into the mind of our children and authorize what we say into their life. You're going to be successful. You're not going to have any fears. You're going to go as far as you want to go. We have the authority to establish that in their life, in their mind, in their subconscious. But sometimes when they come, Mom, do you think I can do this, Dad? You go, well, I don't know. And when we don't establish it, what we establish is doubt. So we have to be able to understand that we have the authority to establish a sound foundation for them for their future. So being a father is also being a founder, somebody that can establish. So we have to know how to do that.
That's good. That's really good. So, yeah, so I think that overall, I think the topic of fatherhood is a good concept that I think we all fathers have to really understand, because I think that's just the main thing that God intended it to be. Fathers leading their children and their families. And so, did you have any questions of your own, or did you want me to continue?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm just going with the flow, and yeah, it's just like you said, it's a really good topic. It's like I mentioned, it's so important. It's crazy how before I came into the kingdom, I didn't understand the magnitude, or the just the weight that's on a man, because a man is a male man is the only one that can be a father, and I didn't, grow up with a father, so you don't realize what you're missing basically until you kind of what's the right wording? Like, you don't realize what you're missing until you see the like the goal, basically, like until you see the finish line, and you're like, oh, like I didn't know I needed these tools, or I didn't know I needed this or that to get there.
Do you think that you may have needed to find like a spiritual father in order to help you be the father that?
Well, definitely. I mean, this just all goes into what we've learned. Definitely need a father in place. A spiritual father. If you don't have your physical father to be all of these things that we're talking about, so I definitely needed that. It sets you behind. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I've learned all these things, though, because now I have my daughter, and now I have you, who I now know that, I'm not just a father to her. I'm not supposed to be just a father to her, but I'm also supposed to be a father to you. So it's a lot, it's a lot. If you don't understand as a man, and the only one who can teach you this is another man that knows all of this.
Can you explain when he mentions that he also has to be a father to your wife? Because I don't think a lot of people can relate to that or understand.
Right.
That
I think that a lot of people don't understand the concept of marriage.
Yeah.
And the concept of marriage is to always have the female protected. So when a woman is never meant to be without a father at any point or any stage in her life, she's always supposed to have that father, because father is a function. It's not that's why we're talking here that it's not about the seed that generates the child, because when a woman gets married, it's a transfer of one father to another father. So when you're walking down the aisle, you being walked down the aisle by your father, and then the priest asks you who gives over this woman, and then the father says, I give over this woman to who? To the next father. So I raised her up to this point, but you have to finish the work in her. So now the husband becomes the father, which means which is not a progenitor. It is a source, an upholder, a nourisher, a protector. All these things now, all the things that you receive from your biological father, now your husband has to give them to you. You become like his baby.
So now if your husband doesn't give you that, then that's when the issues happen in a marriage.
It's because he's not being a father.
Yeah.
He's being a husband.
And just to go into that topic a little bit, I was listening to something earlier, and Miles was talking about how women basically suffer twice, when they don't have a father in the household, because they lack everything that a father provides and is supposed to, and then now when they go to get married, they don't know what a father's supposed to be like, and you're not your husband is basically gonna be your father now too. So if you don't know what a father is, no, or if you don't know what a father is really supposed to be like, then when you're picking your husband, you can pick incorrectly, or you can pick someone who is not gonna have all of these qualities, and that's just more trouble for yourself or for that woman and for her future children or future generations.
Like what people don't understand, even sometimes from the Old Testament, for example, the Old Testament, it was the father that would pick the husband for the daughter, and in reality, they weren't picking a husband; they were picking a father. They were picking somebody that was going to finish the job that they started.
That's crazy.
They weren't looking for a sex partner.
Yeah.
They were looking for a father for their daughter.
Yeah.
That was going to protect them and guide them and nourish them and do all these things for her, the things that he was doing for them.
Yeah.
Plus more.
Plus more. That is crazy.
So, time is almost up, but I want to touch one more area of fatherhood. And I think that this is one that is very neglected as well, because we haven't really been educated in it, or nobody has really talked to us about that. But a father is also an upholder. And what that means is that he is to support or defend as against opposition or criticism. So a father protects the child against opposition, protects the child from criticism. When somebody wants to come and attack them and try to bring them down, the father is there to uphold the child and make sure that they cover them, so that the criticism doesn't go into their subconscious or into their heart and cause bitterness or anger or cause disillusion, anxiety, all these things. It is the father's job to defend against opposition. Anything that comes against the child, the father is supposed to stand there and make sure that the child is not affected by it. So, being a father is not simply, like I said, I'm going to buy you clothes, or I'm going to, play with you.
That's a dad.
A father protects the child.
Yeah.
Like, why does the child feel like they can't?
Yeah.
Who criticized the child? Did the child see you defend them?
And sometimes we don't see that from
Right.
our parents. We don't see that at all sometimes.
Can the child see the father standing up for them, and they feel protected and safe, knowing, oh, my father has me? It's an upholder. And I think that in our society, or even the way that we grew up, we never defended our kids publicly sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when somebody criticized them, we never told them, hey, don't criticize my child. They didn't see us defending or standing up for them, which caused issues emotionally and mentally in their life. But a father has to be able to stand up and say, hey, why did you say that to my child? Why did you treat my child this way? You can't talk to her this way. You can't treat them this way. And they got to see you do it. Because then they're saying, my father protects me. He defends me. He uplifts me and raises me up. He affirms me when I feel down. So, it's an area of fatherhood that is lacking nowadays. One, because there's no fathers around to begin with, and the fathers that are present don't know how to defend.
Yeah, and I think that, we're not used to seeing that, because it's like sometimes we just tell our kids, like, don't, if they do this to you, like, just walk away, or you're fine, or it's not a big deal, or you're okay, or like, rather than them seeing that you're there to defend them at all times. And that's really good. That's really good.
The other thing is, this word upholder is like it has so much stuff in it. It says to keep up or to keep from sinking.
Upholder.
Or to keep from sinking, which means that sometimes a child is, like for us, the stuff that is happening in their life might not be a big deal, but to them it's devastating. And sometimes we minimize it and we make them feel like it's not a big deal. Why are you crying for this?
Yeah.
Yes, to you as an adult, as a developed human being, it's not a big deal. But to a child that is developing, that does not have the mindset or the ability yet, to them it's their whole world. And sometimes when we minimize that, we cause them to sink. And our responsibility is to be with them in those moments and affirm and lift them up and keep them from sinking. We have to be patient with them and understand that it's a child. To them, it is a big deal. But to you, because you're an adult, it's not. So you cannot compare yourself to the child. You're there to uplift them and keep them from sinking into depression, because it can cause depression in a child.
Wow.
So lift them up.
Yeah.
You know, another thing is upholding the standard of behavior. It is not what you tell them, it's what they see in you. So can they see that you have a good character, that you're truthful, that you're a hard worker, that you love the mother, that you do everything for the household? Can they see that? Because it's not about you telling them. They have to be able to see the standard of behavior. And like I said, the upholder is a supporter, a defender, and a sustainer.
That's good. That's
Being a father is not an easy thing.
Yeah, it's not. And to close off, because of time, I think that this conversation of fatherhood was a really good topic, just to remind us who our father is and how fatherhood should be impactful into our children's life. And before we close, is there anything you guys would like to say before?
There's like you said, time runs out so quickly. There's literally so much to say. The only thing I want to say, I guess, from my notes that I had is that listening to another message, and Miles was saying that if you didn't have your father to do these things for you, your physical father, that the Bible says to look to your heavenly Father for the example. So yes, God will put a spiritual father, because you need someone to be able to guide you, and all these things that we get from a spiritual father, because it takes that connection for someone to connect you back to God. But either way, for those that don't have a spiritual father at the time, or your physical father fulfilling these functions, just dig into your Bible, read, get to know God and Jesus, both, because you can only know the Father through the Son. And of course, knowing the Father, you'll know how he intended for us fathers to be. So that's just what I'll close it with.
And then I will just say from personal experience, when I got with my wife, we were young parents, and I didn't grow up with my father either, so I didn't have a model or an example of what a father was supposed to be like. But then I started reading the Bible, and I started going through the Gospels, and I saw the relationship between the Father and Jesus, and I learned, even though I didn't know how to be a father myself, I learned how a father functioned simply by looking at their relationship, simply by reading about how the Father and Jesus interacted, and how close knit they were. And I remember me being a young father, using all of those examples and using all of those models that I saw from the Father and Jesus, and applied them into my family. And I would tell my kids, I'm like, what, it's not about me, because I really can't give you an example. So I can't pull out of my experience, but I can pull out of the experience that I am observing between Jesus and the Father, and this works. So let's follow this example. What I'm telling you is because I saw it in Scripture, and I saw it in the Bible, and their relationship came alive to me. So then I was able to just easily come back here and say, this is what the Father would do. Not because I had one, but because I saw it with Jesus and the Father. So I'm like, let's do this, because this is the example that I'm seeing. This is the way that it's supposed to be, and it works.
Yeah.
And then just to add to that really quick, because as you've mentioned, once you started doing those things, down the line at some point, then God placed your spiritual father into your life, so that way you had that person to help you and maximize you and get you to where you are, now, which is give you that last bit of push that you needed.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, whatever you're looking for will come to you. Whatever you don't look, you will never get. So I was always looking for a father figure or a father in itself to be able to guide me. And my first interaction, like I said, it was with the Bible, with the relationship between the Father and the Father and Jesus. But eventually, yes, I did bump into Dr. William, and he is my spiritual father, and the rest is history. But I was looking for it. If you're not looking for a father, you won't find one.
That's so true. Yeah, that's good. Well, to wrap this up, we thank you guys so much for joining in our Wednesday lives. We also want to remind you guys that we also do have our Sunday services that start at 2 p.m. and we also do have our Friday mentorship class starting at 7:30. And I just thank you guys once again, and I hope this has blessed you guys just like how it has blessed myself. Thank you guys for watching.
To the King.
Thanks.